Howdy, folks. I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist. Today we're going to do a neutrino forecast or a daily transit report for Tuesday, the 7th of October, 2025. So here on Tuesday, what we have is the left angle cross of Endeavor. Left is always looking out. In fact, that's a good way to remember it. Left looking out, because right's really looking in. Looking out, it's the transitional line, the 6th line, so it's no longer thinking about it, it's just doing it, doing the thing, it's just got it in its body. Its attention in itself is really focused towards the next yard or the next hexagram, which in this case is 51. So what we have here is 21 leading directly to the throat through this channel of materialism. The 6th line is going to be looking right next to it, 51, which just happens to work that way. The gate of shock, courage, and incidentally, the gate of withdrawal. And that's it makes it a little dynamic there on the 21st gate in the 6th line. So let's talk about that. 48.6 is the sun activation, of course. That's fulfillment, the inexhaustible source that gives and receives simultaneously. So in giving, it receives. It is the fullness of the well. But we do have here a resonance to the 3rd line where the response was, oh, I'm not going to get power, let me withdraw. And like I said, there's that withdrawal coming out of there. And we also have sort of an energetic carry-on that's happening from the 18. The 18, focus on the broken, the baby Buddha, coming up into the 48.6. So you have still a little bit of this leftover energy of wanting to be taken care of, wanting to be spoiled. And Ross says these are the great fence sitters. Because they're no longer looking to share through the 16. They're no longer aching for that 16 to get out quite so much. They will be, but it's not, the focus isn't quite so much there because they're kind of over it. They're looking to the whole entire circuitry. Now they do need to get that depth out, but they're not feeling quite so pressed on it because they understand everything. They got it. Not everything, but the things that they're there to work on and understand, they do understand. If they can get it out, they can actually have success. They can be very gifted. It's approaching a genius kind of energy, but the pressure isn't quite there anymore because of being on that 18th trend, or on that, oh golly, my numbers today, on that 6th line transitional position. So yeah, it's very interesting, especially when you pair it with the 21 line 6, which is chaos. Now I told you before that if that 21st gate isn't allowed to lead or to control, especially money things, then it can lead to chaos. Well, here in the 6th line of the 21st gate, which is right here, what's happening is they start to become wise. They see, oh shit, this whole power control thing, it can totally lead to chaos. Their tendency is to withdraw until they see where the good place is for them. And if they see the place that's a good place for them to sit down and have their control, then they can really, boom, do something awesome and wonderful. They're really looking for this feeling of, I only want to do something if it's going to be effective. The 6th line, it's like it partakes of all the lines before. So it's got a little bit of that consciousness of the 3rd line that withdrew when the money was uh, in not when it was being challenged, when it was being interfered with. It's like, okay, well, just fuck off then. And Ross says this third line is where a lot of hippie consciousness comes from. Okay, I'm not going to control the money. Fine. Then I guess nobody needs to have it. We can just all share equally. Which is interesting to me because I have the 45-3, and the 45-3 energetically resonates with the 21-3, which is perhaps where I got some of my hippie consciousness. I was just like, oh yeah, they're not going to let me in the money process? Fuck all y'all. I'm going to go live on the edges where, there's so little we can all share anyway. Very interesting. So Ross says that if they're not going to see a place where they can be effective and control in money issues, they won't. They'll just sit on the fence. If they do, pow, they can really pick up and take off with it and be successful. And he says a lot of them end up being in some sort of a spiritual business selling inner order where they can, sell inner control basically to other people. And I thought, very interesting. I know a 21-6 who's doing exactly that. So that's kind of cool to see. And he also says that these people in this line are great self-publishers because that depth can come out in a way that they can control and, have interesting things going on there, which leads me to the people. Okay. Sherman Alexie. I don't think necessarily self-published in that case, but what a powerful, deep author we have in Sherman Alexie, right? Niels Bohr. Yeah, there's somebody getting control of it. Chevy Chase, Matt Damon, Louise Hay. Come down to self-publishing. She just built her own damn publishing house so that she could get that depth out and control it. Very interesting, yeah. Frank Herbert. I don't think he was necessarily self-published, but I do remember there being some sort of story about publishing, like he was turned down for a long time or something like that. I don't remember, but interesting. Definitely depth there. Heinrich Himmler. Vladimir Putin, Mel Robbins, Otto Warburg, Heinz Fischer. So, very interesting people coming out of this third quarter endeavor. There is, of course, one other cross of endeavor on the first quarter, but they have a different focus because it's much more about the control than it is about the depth. So very interesting that happening. The moon, our first people energy, starts off in 21 line 3. How interesting. So we're going to have at the same time two versions of 21 energy. It's such a delicate thing. You're not really going to feel the difference between one time between feeling the 21 once or twice, but it's just interesting that here we are talking about this relevance between the 6th and the 3rd, and the transit reads at the 3rd. So I was like, well, there it is. That whole hippie consciousness, withdrawing from the material process, and having the capacity to move into sharing as a result, rather than actually controlling that money. When the moon is done with 21, it will be moving to that 51, like I said, because the 21 is right next to the 51, so then it'll move right into that gate of shock, courage, and withdrawal. So you will see these people when they can't do the thing they're meant to do, and they're feeling really frustrated by that energy that's in them. They're going to go and withdraw, sit on the fence, be alone for a while, and wait for that opportunity for the perfect moment for them to arrive. The next gate after 51 is 42. That's our endings. That's where our Chiron is. This is the maturation or the completion of that cyclical learning cycle, beginnings and endings. That's the endings. And then it will move over to the third gate right next to it, which is the gate of mutation. And because we have the 60 in Pluto right now, it will be forming a connection for the whole world to give everybody sacral energy and root energy towards the end of the day and into the beginning of tomorrow. And that channel that it will connect is the 360 called the Innovator. Innovations based on the successful synthesis of established concepts and new impulses. So you've got the old and the new clashing together in that very powerful pulse channel to make mutations both in our minds and physical mutations. So we will be seeing physical mutations come out of this channel in the next few years as we start to see that mutation being able to happen in babies who are going to be able to carry that new phoenix energy with an evolved consciousness center in the it's not going to be the solar plex for them anymore. It's a real global mutation. But how exciting to be able to experience that. All right, so the moon has those activations coming on. Mercury has gate 50, line 5. And that is consistency, conservative awareness of basic values. So the 5th is the highest level. That's what we want to see the fulfillment of that line being, taking full responsibility and entering into the process of nurturing others, giving those basic values to the next generation. And it will also move into line 6 of the 50, which is with emphasis. Leadership through maintaining one's values with vigor. All right. And let's see. Then we have Venus energy. Venus energy has moved to 47.5. which we looked at yesterday, 47.5, the devotion to accept the burden of finding meaning, but now it's got an up arrow on it. So that is the gift in times of oppression to maintain a harmonic relationship with oppressors and the oppressed. So really being able to go in between them and understand all the different layers and perspectives of values that are created in any situation, even a situation where there is conflict going on. And of course, they do have that special relationship in the 50 with the 6, the whole nature of conflict, because they're both the points of those waves, so to speak. I mean, it's not really a wave over here, but you do have intuitive ripples kind of going through in the same, in an analogous way to how the 6th is the beginning of the wave function that's happening in the solar plexus. So, 47.5 is where we're beginning, but it does move into 47.6. So we're having a lot of 6 lines showing up here. Futility, the futility of understanding and finding meaning. So that's where they can just sit down in, all right, I'm not always going to understand. I'm not always going to be able to chew it over enough to make sense of it, but they can reach a point of finding peace with that dynamic. All right, our final Earth or people energy is in Mars. That's 44, line 3. And we did talk about that yesterday as well. Interference, the alertness to handle interferences. Excuse me. But that one is getting an up arrow on it as well now. And that is the instinct to be prepared for interferences so as to be able to intervene, and the gift to handle the ego of others to find the reasons. Again, that 44th gate is collaboration, coming to meet. It's wanting to figure out the dynamic of the other so that they can help the other into what they need and participate in this influential channel or selling channel, or really wanting to guide others. There's a power there for it to turn into manipulation, but even manipulation on some level can be good. I definitely had an argument with somebody about this at one time. She had obviously been raised by someone who was very manipulative, and she took a very hard stance on that manipulation is never, ever, ever justified. And I had to disagree with her, so then she hated me and blah, blah, blah. But yeah. Well, what am I going to do? It is true. Sometimes manipulation is a good idea, but I think you have to be very, very careful with a power that strong, that you're using it with the correct intentions, you're using it for someone's good, and not just to oppress them, not just to take advantage of them or enslave them. And I can totally understand how someone who's been enslaved by manipulation would be real sour on the process. I get it. But when people don't know what's really good for them or not, then they need to be led. And that leading can look like manipulation. So it's like, well, it's a gray area. So yeah, very gray. All right, so that is our people energies. We do have two shifts upcoming in the global scheme, but I'm feeling like we're too far in to actually discuss that. So since they're on the global scheme, and they'll definitely be there again tomorrow, I think I'm going to let that one sit until tomorrow and tell you about the song for today. That is Money Game by Ren. What an interesting character that guy is. First of all, he's a first quarter upheaver, just like my partner, because, well, I heard it in his song. A song came across, and I have this funny feeling like I've talked to you guys about that before, but maybe it was just my people I talked to about it before, because I looked back to see if I had featured this song or any song by him recently, and it looked like no. So I was like, okay, well, this is a great time to put that in, because he's definitely expressing depth. He's definitely talking about, the tension of living. And he himself had a situation in his past where he was like injured or wounded or some disease or something that almost killed him. And his force of will, he has a 7 out of 9 activated in the root. Very interesting. Everything but this 360 and the 53, the new beginnings. Pulled himself up somehow, and I guess that's typical because he's 5'2" in his profile, and those 5'2s are a little bit special. They really do have to bootstrap themselves up, and I gather this is one of those rare success stories where this guy did that and became this, rapper, very deep, very he's a shit kicker for sure, upheaving and drawing parallels that are uncomfortable for people to see. It makes for a fascinating kind of energy in his songs, and this song in particular. So if you haven't heard of this Ren dude, check him out. This Money Game is a very kind of a cool, deep, like warning people kind of song. So, all right, there we have that. We are looking forward tomorrow to begin a whole new grouping based around gate, 57. So, intuition. That's what's coming forward, and we'll talk about the global shift tomorrow. So, come back then. I'll see ya. Ciao.